Did it ever occur to you that your customer might want to get involved in the closing process? You know what's more boring than watching paint dry? I'll tell you. Watching a salesperson close. I mean, come on, it's true, isn't it? I mean, just imagine how most salespeople close. They're all nervous, and they're half the time they're biting their lip, and they look like they're about to have a stroke. And the customer sits across the table from them, and they're equally nervous. They look like they're going to have a stroke, or many times they look like they're constipated. And I very often wondered, I'm sorry, why is it we do this? Why is it that when we get to the stage of closing the sale, everybody's freaked out, everybody looks like they're going to die, and everybody seems not to really be involved in the process? I'll tell you why this is. It's simply because salespeople have been taught wrong. I really believe that many salespeople are taught that at the point of closing the sale, they have to get serious, or they have to brace themselves for some kind of ensuing war, or maybe they have to mentally get themselves prepared for the battle that's coming. But all that's a bunch of garbage, because the reality is the emotion and the interaction and connection that we're taught to be able to get involved with in the presentation part of the sales process, we also need at the closing part of the process too. But for some reason, we as salespeople don't do this. So what I'd like to do this week is share with you a few secrets that I've learned that help you to get the customer involved in the closing process, and not only involved, but actually get them in the process of helping them to close themselves. Secret number one, never ask the customer to buy, but always ask them why. You know, from the beginning of my sales career, I was taught to always ask the customer to buy. And in principle, I agree with that concept. However, I remember very well 20 years ago, then when I was reading sales books and I was going to sales seminars, I was told there was this magical statistic that 63% of the time, salespeople didn't ask the customer to buy. So what we need to do is ask them. The problem was, in all those sales books and in the seminars, and even today, most salespeople are taught to ask customers to buy. And that's wrong. And here's why. If I ask you to buy something, you might say no. But if I ask you why you think it would be a good idea for you to buy something, this changes the mental dynamic. Because whatever you tell me based on the question I just asked you is an answer that's your own. Because you're sharing with me the reasons why it's important for you or beneficial for you to buy. So it definitely is much more powerful to ask the customer in maybe this way. Mr. Customer, we've gone through the presentation, I've shared about the product with you. Maybe you could share some reasons why you think this particular product or service or particular investment would be a good idea for you now. If they say nothing, of course you got to go back and figure out how to establish some need. But whatever they tell you at this point is an answer of their own. And if it's an answer of their own, not only do they believe it, they're not going to be able to so easily rescind that. It gives you a lot of power. And also, it gives you a chance to remind them in the future of why they're making a decision, which will reduce the amount of buyer's remorse you're going to have in your sales. Secret number two, dream about it. Here's something I do very often when I'm closing. I will do this maybe sometimes right before I ask the customer why they would want to buy, or maybe right after. I'll ask them to dream with me a little bit about how they're going to use the product, or possibly how they're going to benefit from it, or how they're going to use the benefits practically, whether the benefits saving money or saving time or improving the quality of life. Now, I know this is not a super powerful technique that you probably haven't heard of before. However, most salespeople forget to do it. Most salespeople go through their presentation, talk about the product, go to objections, deal with those, and try to close. But they forget that if they can get the customer to dream and envision the benefits of the product or service, it's going to give them a lot more power, because the customer is going to feel like they own the product before they make a decision to buy it. So keep that in mind. You know, we all know that we have 5 senses that we should not only use ourselves in the sales process, but also, if we can, get the customer to use. Well, there's a 6th sense, and that is the customer's mind. Anytime we can get them involved mentally, it gives us more power, and it gives them an opportunity to experience the product and thus help them to close themselves. Secret number 3, draw pictures. Now, I gotta tell you, as an artist, I suck. I'm horrible. I have a difficult time drawing stick figures. Nevertheless, I'm always drawing pictures and writing figures down with my customer, and especially when I'm closing, because that's the time when I need to pull all the information together. And at the close, that's when we have to summarize everything that we've explained to the customer so they get that vivid picture in a compact format so they can make an easier decision. So don't be afraid when you're closing to sit there and say, well, okay, let's draw this out, or write this down, or let's take a look at how this interacts with this. And don't be the only one drawing the pictures. Give the customer the pen or pencil too. Because the more you can get them involved, remember, the more they're going to start to close themselves.
This episode continues next week on Sold. Here's a sneak preview.
Also, you should realize that probably 20 or 30% of the population has a problem with numbers in general. So if you don't take the time to, you'll be talking about 50,000 of this and 100,000 of that, which equals 2 million of this, but you have to take 50% of the 2 million to be able to, customer's brain just shut down. Now, of course, they're not going to tell you up. Very often, when you go through other offers, other guarantees, you'll find that what the customer believes is reality really isn't. And I will tell you this, and listen carefully. Don't just let your customer run away from you and gather information at their discretion. Give them some guidelines. Let them know what to look for. Let them know the information they need to go back and research from there.
Don't miss it.